Hey, what's going on, friends? Still in Nonaka here with the Buy Big Island video blog with a special Lava Zone edition. This is not a regularly scheduled post, but given the recent events and the eruptions that we're having on the islands, I thought I would provide a little bit of information, share some maps, give you a little bit of perspective about how it feels living here, and hopefully answer some of your questions and provide you some good information. So the first thing is it definitely hits close to home, although Kona, where I live, is about 2.5 hours away from Pahoa, where the lava is currently erupting. I was actually there this past weekend. My friend, very good friend from the Army Reserve, got married there on Friday, and the eruption started on Thursday. So we were there prepping for the wedding, and actually had to move the reception out of the community center because it was opened as a disaster shelter. So we were right in the middle of it, really literally 2.5 miles away, 2 miles away from the first fissures that opened up, and saw the people evacuating, saw the National Guard checkpoints. But all in all, life kind of went on as normal. I mean, people were still shopping and moving around, and lots of people still came to the wedding. So the folks in that area, you can never really get used to it, but it's been erupting there for a long time, and it's absolutely terrible for the folks that are affected by it, the folks that live in Leilani Estates. My wife has a friend that she used to teach with who lost her home, one of the first homes that were lost, and then we have some other very good friends that own a home in Leilani Estates that is threatened right now. So it definitely hits close to home, but for most of the folks on the island, they're not directly impacted by the lava, and life goes on as normal. So I wanted to provide some information about the volcanoes, about the lava zones, and a little bit of perspective at the end about how we feel about it. So the first thing is that the news makes it very dramatic, and we get that. That's what the news does. But if you kind of understand the island a little bit better and the lava zones a little bit better, it's not as dramatic, and it kind of puts you can calm your nerves a little bit. So the first thing we got to understand is the volcanoes on the island. There's 5 main volcanoes on the island that form the Big Island, and they're broken up in this map here by these black lines. So you have the Kohala Mountains, Mauna Kea, which is where the observatories are. You have Hualalai, which is where Kona is, and Kailua is right here. This is where I'm at right now. And then Mauna Loa is the largest volcano on the island. Not as tall as Mauna Kea, but mass-wise the largest. And then Kilauea is the most active volcano, and that's the one that's been erupting since 1983. And the area that's affected right now is right in here, right near Pahoa. This is where Leilani Estates is. So a very small area that is very isolated from the rest of the island, especially by Mauna Loa. This is a 13,000 foot mountain, and so the lava is obviously going to flow away from it towards the ocean. So this is the 5 major volcanoes that form the island that kind of give you an idea of geography. But obviously these are two very large volcanoes. This is a large mountain also, and depending on where the flows come from, they're all going to flow downhill. So the whole island is not threatened by this current flow right now. It's a very small area, and specifically, unfortunately, right inside of a community where the lava is erupting. So the island is broken into lava hazard zones, which are geographic or geological models based on past flows, based on topography, based on current volcanic activity, and all the science that goes into that. And so they give you a rating based on your area in terms of the likelihood of lava threatening that area or flowing nearby. And obviously, lava zone 1 is the highest threat, and then it goes all the way down to 9. And if you look at the map, it corresponds with the age of the volcanoes. So the Kohala Mountains are pretty much extinct, and so they're lava zone 9. Mauna Kea hasn't erupted in a very long time. Hualalai a little bit more recently, like 1800s. So there are it's 3 or 4, a little bit higher. And then you have lava zone 2 in Mauna Loa, and then obviously along Kilauea. And then these darker lines are the areas that are lava zone 1. And this is where Leilani Estates is right in here. So they are right in lava zone 1, right along the East Rift Zone. And so the science somewhat corresponds with the actual activity right now. But it's good to understand this. You still can get insurance inside of these areas. There isn't any such thing as volcano insurance, but there is fire insurance, and then there's other all-encompassing insurances that you can get that covers all other hazards, and sometimes they're a little bit more expensive, but there are some brokers in town that have access to that. And so I don't know how this current flow is going to affect that, but up until this point, everything has been insurable in some way. So that's one thing that they take into account. There are some programs like the VA that have some restrictions on lending inside of lava zones 1 and 2, and so you got to check with your lender on that, see what the current guidelines are. But that's the basic outlay of what the lava zones look like on the island. And then we'll zoom in a little bit to show just this portion of the island right here and where the flows actually are and where the communities are that are being affected. So this is that portion of the island right here, the eastern tip of the island. This is a Pu'o'o vent, which has been erupting since 1983, and you can see the flows. And there were actually some flows in 2016 that came right outside of Pahoa town right here and stopped. And so that was a big issue, because if the flows had crossed the highway right here, all of these people in Lower Puna would have been cut off from Hilo, and they would have had to build some new roads down here along the coastline in order to get these folks out. So this stopped in 2016, fortunately, but what just started was right here in Leilani Estates is the flow that's currently happening right now. And this map, and these are all USGS maps. This one's pretty current, they just put it out. This is when there was 12 fissures. I think they're up to, 10 here. I think they're up to 12 right now. But as you can see, they're breaking out right inside of a neighborhood, Leilani Estates. It's a beautiful place, 1 acre lots, very lush, some really nice property in there. But unfortunately, it was built right on top of Lava Zone 1, and right now they're experiencing, the threat that goes along with that. But there are homes, in the upper part that are unaffected. But obviously, if you're along this line right here where the fissures are breaking out, it's a very big problem, and I feel terrible for the people there. There's lots of good support for them. The community center has been open. The Red Cross definitely encourage donations and any type of support that you can give to the folks that are there, because a lot of people lost their entire livelihood. They had farms there, everything. They didn't have time to get all their stuff out of their homes, and their homes burnt with everything in them. So very tragic situation. But just to add a little bit of perspective to this, because talking about real estate may be insensitive at a time like this, but a lot of people ask us, right, what's the effect on the real estate market? What do you think is going to happen? And the reality is, for us that live here, life goes on. If we're not in the directly affected area and our house isn't burning, everybody's going to work and going to school, and life goes on. And the reality is that these volcanoes, specifically the Pu'o'o, has been erupting since 1983, so almost my whole entire life. And so you can never get used to it, but it has always been there, and it's not something new necessarily. And it's unfortunate that currently the eruption is inside of a neighborhood, but that lava has been flowing for a very long time, and the community has always known it was there. So it's tragic, but it's always been there, and we just gotta put that into perspective. And the reality is, if you look at the threats that threaten any community anywhere in the country, like wildfires, tornadoes, flooding, hurricanes, tsunamis. I mean, we see the disasters that happen throughout the country and throughout the world. If you put that into perspective and see the amount of homes that are lost, or property that is lost and damaged, compared to the lava flows here, it's a very small percentage. And obviously that's terrible for the people that are affected directly. But if you look at the recent flooding in Texas or the wildfires in California, the number of people affected are exponentially greater. And so if you're thinking this is a reason not to move to Hawaii or to move away from Hawaii or anything like that, the reality is it's not a greater threat than many other natural disasters that can happen anywhere in the country or in the world. So just wanted to add that perspective. We never know what the long-term effects are, because with Mother Nature you can never predict it. There's lots of good scientists working this, trying to figure things out and make predictions, but especially with volcanic activity, you cannot predict the future. And so this could go on for decades. I mean, the reality is the volcano's already been erupting for decades, and this new eruption could go on for decades into the future. We just don't know. So we'll take it day by day. Hopefully this answers some of your questions. Feel free to hit me up if you got any questions. And property and lava zones are not clearly defined in any online searches, or most online searches. So if you want to know specifically what lava zone a property is in, or what lava zone your property is in, give us a call. We can look that up. There's maps that we can overlay in the MLS that tell us the lava zones. So we can easily access that information if you need it. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, dylan@bybigisland.com. Again, always subscribe so you can get the new updates, and hope you guys have a great day. Aloha.